going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. Today's video is going to be about 15 prepping priorities. I'm not going to list these 15 priorities in order of importance. However, each is extremely important when it comes to the chain of prepping and survival. If any link is left out, if any link is not sufficiently strong, then it will greatly diminish your chances of actually surviving a SHTF type event. The first priority, of course, is water. Now, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you are, if you are alive, you need water to survive. And you need to be sure that your water storage is sufficient for your location. You know, you want to store more water if you live in a dry region than you would here where I'm at now, because we get plenty of rainfall here. I have a river over here, and actually a river over here also. So I'm surrounded by water. However, other people might not be, and depending on your location, you need to think about how much water will actually need. How plentiful is water where I am, and stockpile accordingly. If water is hard to come by, clean drinking water, then stockpile more. You need to get a good water filter. You can get something like a Big Berkey, or you can get the camping type water filters. I prefer having both a Big Berkey filter and the camping backpacking style water filters, because those are portable. You might need to be on the go at some point, and carrying a Big Berkey around with you all the time isn't really practical. Another thing you need to do when it comes to water is to get on Google Earth and look at your current location and see where any water sources are near your home, you know, within half a mile to a mile of your home, because you might need to tap into those water sources at some point. The next item on this list is medications, prescription medications. It is definitely hard to get a good stockpile of medications that you need from the doctor, because they want to just prescribe every 3 months, because they want to do blood work and things like that, and plus they want to get, you know, the extra visit, and the extra visit means more income for them. So it's hard to get them to prescribe, you know, a year's supply ahead. That can be done, but you have to just talk to your doctor and see what you can do, and if they don't work with you, maybe you can find a different doctor, or maybe you can order those medications depending on what they are online. You can also get some prescriptions, actually see doctor online and get that doctor online to write your prescription. That might work. Try to look at different avenues to get those prescriptions filled so you can stock up for a year or even more. The best option, of course, is to try to get off of those medications. Now, I can't tell you to stop your medications or anything like that, because I'm not a doctor, not your doctor. However, if you can get off those medications, you know, get healthy enough and get the okay from your doctor to get off your medications, and that'd be even better, because that way you'll have no need for those medications any longer. Some medications can actually be replaced with, you know, supplements, types of herbs and things like that you can use to replace some of those medications. Do all the research you need to do, talk to your doctor, and find out what you need to do to either stockpile medications or completely get off the medication that you're on, because, you know, if you are on a medication and without that medication there's bad health consequences, and something happens and you can't get the medication any longer, then you're up poop creek without a paddle, as the saying goes. So try to stockpile those medications any way possible, and also try to get off those medications if you can, and also you can look for alternatives to those medications, natural alternatives. And the next priority is first aid supplies. This is different than the last priority, which is your medications. This is typical first aid supplies, you know, your gauze, your bandages, your Advil, your Tylenol, your Motrin, your triple antibiotic ointment, your pain patches, maybe a sling in case someone gets an arm broken, or a finger splint, some things like that in your first aid kit. Be sure to have a sufficiently stocked first aid kit on hand at all times. If you use something from that kit, which you normally do over a course of, you know, your lifetime, you're going to use stuff from that kit, things can go bad, so be sure to replace anything that goes bad, or replace anything that you actually use as quickly as possible, because you want to keep that kit stocked at full capacity at all times. Now, what you include in that kit will depend on, of course, your skill level. It's a good idea, if at all possible, to take some courses in, first aid, CPR. Even if you could, it'd be good to actually go to nursing school just to learn how to do certain medical procedures. You can go to school to be an EMP, even if you don't plan on making that your career. It's a good choice to take those classes, to learn everything you can, to get advanced medical skills above just typical first aid and CPR class. You can use that to help your family, help your neighbors, help your relatives. It's also a good thing to use, in a post-collapse situation as a barter skill, because things happen, and if you have medical skills and you have the kits and tools put back to implement those skills that you've learned, then you'll be in high demand. And guys, next on this list is diapers and baby supplies. And this won't apply to everyone, of course, because not everyone has children. Not everyone's going to have small children in their group. However, if you have your own children, if you have grandkids or something like that that's going to be in your group or coming to your home to take care of during a grid down type situation, then you need to put back, sufficient supplies for those infants. Diapers, formula, bottles, nipples, all kinds of things that can be put back that baby will need to be healthy and to survive. And you want to make sure you have everything put back, stockpiled, and ready to go for any infants and children that's going to be in your group. And next on this list of priorities is, of course, food. Everyone should already be stockpiling food at this point. If you're watching this channel from the time, food stockpiling is a big part of preparedness and prepping. So stockpile your food to the rafters. It's not going to get any cheaper. It's not going to get any more plentiful from this point on. So do everything you can to stockpile the foods that you eat. The non-perishable type foods. Stockpile canned foods, canned meats, vegetables, fruits, canned soups, stews, stockpile rice, sugar, salt, wheat. If you stockpile hard red winter wheat, for example, also in a grinder to prepare that food with, to grind that up to make that into a flour so you can use. You might want to even look into the long-term storage foods, you can buy from the food storage companies. I don't stock a lot of those. However, they have their place. I prefer to stock store-bought canned goods, rice, beans, and the basic foods like that, because they're a lot cheaper. They have a lot better. They have just as long a shelf life in most cases as the food that's been prepackaged by the survival food companies. A can of soup, a can of pinto beans from the store might say best used by a year and a half from that date. However, as long as that canned food is still in that can, and that can is still intact and not rusting or not bulging, all the seams are still good and solid. If you open the can up and the food smells good and looks good, then it's good to go. And canned food has a far longer shelf life than what is listed on the can. Okay guys, next on the list is a way to prepare that food that you've been stockpiling. Think a solar oven, a camp stove, an open fire outside with the grill over top of that to set your pots on. A Dutch oven. Think of whatever you need in your location to cook that food. Some locations have, more wood, that you can get wood from the forest to actually cook your food. Something like a rocket stove, an EcoZoom rocket stove, is great, especially for the area that I'm in right here, because wood is plentiful. You can use that to cook. It puts off very little smoke, actually. You need to have as many different ways to cook as possible. Say a sun oven, a EcoZoom rocket stove, and a propane camp stove. That way you can cover all the basics and have a way to cook no matter what's going on. If you can't find any wood and the sun is out, you can use the solar oven to actually heat your food up and bake with. And if it's winter and you need to be inside, you can use, with adequate ventilation, of course, you can use that propane Coleman camping stove. Just look at what you can get in your location and try to see what you'll need where you are, and try to have at least 2 or 3 different ways to prepare that food storage that you've been putting back. And guys, next on this list is actually a way to heat your home in case the grid goes down. We experienced this here just a few weeks ago where I am. The power went down and I was fine because I have several different heating sources. Texas as you all know, had a really hard time when the power went down there for a couple of weeks. Some people froze, some people actually passed away because of the severe cold, lack of preparedness, and the lack of heating. Figure out how you can heat your home over a long period of time. If you can put in a wood stove, that is absolutely perfect, but you'll need to put back firewood. If you can have, propane type stove, that's great too. However, that propane will eventually run out, and in a worst case type situation, then it's going to be difficult to replace that. Propane, I have natural gas here, and that's my main heating source right now is for natural gas. However, if everything broke down and stayed broke down for a long extended length of time, then that propane might stop flowing, or might not be able to actually pay that bill to keep that natural gas flowing into the house to heat this house with. So I have a wood stove for backup. You need to try to figure out at least one source of how to heat your home, during the winter months without electricity. 2 sources even better, because that way if one source fails, you have another one to fall back on. I did a video about a month and a half ago about how to keep warm if the grid goes down, and I will link to that video in the description box below and check it out. But try to figure out how you're going to keep warm, how you're going to keep from getting frostbite and hypothermia if the grid goes down and your heating source goes kaput. Figure out backups, preferably 2 backups to your main heating source. And next on this list is the topic that most preppers, salivate when they start thinking about this topic, and that is guns, firearms, ammunition. They're getting difficult to come by, especially the ammunition. Here where I am right now, you can find the firearms are plentiful. It's the ammunition that is difficult to come by. If you don't own any type of firearm whatsoever and you're just starting out, I suggest you go pick up a 12 gauge pump action shotgun and get some ammunition put back for that, because that's the easiest thing to find ammo for right now is shotguns. At least in my area, you can still find shotgun ammo, and it's probably the same in most other locations. Stockpile number 6 shot, number 4 shot, double aught buckshot, number 4 buckshot, and maybe some slugs. Put back as much as you can, and that will cover pretty much everything that you'll need a firearm for. If you can, you need to get a 22 rifle. Ruger 1022 is absolutely awesome. Ammunition for that, though, like I said, is difficult to find, and probably isn't going to get any better anytime soon. If you need a handgun, go get the handgun now. And if you can't find ammunition for that, maybe you can sometime in the future. And I suggest a 9mm Glock Model 19 if you can find one. Put back some extra magazines, all you can afford, because with this current administration that is in office, they control the Congress, the Senate, and the executive branch, and they are wanting more gun control laws passed, more gun bans. So get what you can right now. Buy it, put it back, and especially those full capacity magazines. Even if you plan on buying, say, a Glock handgun later in the future, and you can afford to buy one right now, and you're going to get a Glock 19, for example, still go out right now and find all the magazines that you can buy and buy those up for that, because in the future, they might not ban the actual Glock 19, but they might make the capacity down to, say, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, 3 rounds, or whatever. And if you have these other magazines, then you can just slap a magazine in there and you're good to go with 15 rounds. So they're definitely going to go after those full capacity magazines, so stock up on those. Okay, guys, let's see, where was I at? Oh yeah, a shotgun, a 22 rifle, and a handgun. The next thing you want to consider is something like a defensive type rifle, like an AR-15 or an AK type system. I prefer the AR because of the it's more accurate, but also it's easier to find magazines for the AR-15s right now, and they are actually lighter weight in most cases. Not every case, but in most cases lighter weight, more accurate, and you're more able to forage in the worst case scenario and pick up, magazines that has been lost, like in the case of war or something like that. You can find magazines from someone who has been unfortunate enough to pass away. You might be able to find something like that. You might be able to find ammunition. You might be able to barter for ammunition because it's a popular caliber and a popular type, a very popular firearm. Next thing you should think about is something like a bolt action 308 for added range. You know, the 223 5.56 ARs are good to about 300 to 350 yards. However, at that 350 yard mark, they'll lose a lot of power with that lightweight bullet. Still very deadly, but and effective. However, at that 300 yards, 350 yards, you're going to start losing accuracy and start losing power. Now, there's some exceptions. If you have certain rifles that are equipped with the right optics and the right barrel and everything, to get accuracy out to 500 yards or more. However, it's easier to do this with a good bolt action 308 hunting rifle. Put a scope on that, sight that in, and you're good to go out to 600, 700, 800 yards. And guys, next on this list of prepping priorities is communications. You need two-way communications, because if you're a member of your group or family goes outside the home or retreat, you need to be able to communicate with that member, because they might see something that they need to relate back to you. They might get hurt, they might get stranded, they might need help, and being able to communicate is a must. So think two-way communications, and be sure to get the ways to do that. You'll need several radios to go around your group. Try to get at least one radio for every member of your group. Another thing you need to think about is communications like shortwave, because you want to be able to know what's going on out there in the world, and shortwave radio is a great way to do that. Get the shortwave, you can get the antennas that will roll out and stretch out to get more better reception. Police scanners, things like that to communicate with. If you have a ham radio license and have ham radios, that is also good. You can get a lot of news. You can get a lot of news through ham radio operators. And plus, you can also do two-way communications, of course, with those ham radios. But look at your situation, look at your requirements where you are, and be sure to get ways to communicate within your group and ways to gather information and intelligence outside your group and outside your current location. And guys, next on this list is fuel storage. You'll need to have, if you have generators, a generator isn't going to do you any good if it's a gas power generator or a diesel power generator. Isn't going to do you any good if you don't have the fuel to operate that generator with. So be sure to put some fuel back for your generators, your chainsaws, and things like that. Look at what you have, look at what you'll need, and how much you think you'll be using those, and put back sufficient fuel to keep those running for the period of time that you envision. There's no set number that you can say you need exactly this much, because no one really knows. You have to just look at your location, look at what you have, and look at your needs, and do the math and figure accordingly, and put that fuel back. The same thing with firewood. If you have a wood stove's great. However, if you have no wood for that wood stove to actually use to heat your home with, then the wood stove is going to be useless. You can gather some stuff out of the woods, some sticks, some trees, maybe down or something, and gather it up and bring it in to heat up for a few days. However, if you have to go through a 6-7 month cold winter, it takes a lot of firewood. You need chainsaws, you need extra bars, you need chain oil, you need mixing oil, everything you need to feed that wood stove to keep warm. But like I said, look at your situation and see what you have, what you'll need fuel wise, wood wise, and work at putting that back and keeping that stockpiled. You also want to use that and replace that, just like you do food storage, because over time gasoline can go bad, and there's ways to extend the life of gasoline, but it will still eventually go bad. So you'll need to keep that on a first in, first out basis, a rotation basis, just like food storage. If you use this gallon of fuel, then go back out and replace it with another gallon, and make sure you keep up with all the dates and things, where what you stored first, that way you can use that first, and what you stored last, that we can keep it on a rotation basis and always have a fresh supply. The same thing with firewood. If you heat with firewood, you need to, as soon as you can, replace that firewood, because the wood needs to actually season so it will burn correctly. If you go out and cut down a tree that is green, that is not going to burn very well, because it isn't seasoned out yet and ready to burn. So you need to have some wood put back, let that be seasoning while you're using your other wood. So if possible, put back at least a 2-year supply of wood. And you can use, one year supply during the winter. You'll still have another year supply in case something happened during that time that tied you over also. Plus right now fuel and things is easier to find, but it's getting more expensive like everything else is. So you can use this year's supply of wood. You have a backup supply. Then the next summer, spring and fall, you can gather another year's supply of wood in and then burn the one you already had on hand and let this year's supply of wood season to be used the next year. It gets aggravating, it gets difficult to keep up with, but it can be done. All this rotating, on a first in, first out basis, and it works with fuel storage, food storage, water storage. It works pretty much with everything to ensure you have a fresh supply on hand at all times. Okay, next on this list is feed for your pets, like your dogs, your chickens, your goats, whatever you have. Goats are pretty much feeding themselves during the summer months. If it's winter time, they're going to be hard pressed to find anything to actually feed themselves unless you have a huge property to let those run on. You need to put back feed. You put back feed for your dogs, put back feed for your chickens. You might be able to grow some of this feed yourself on your property and put that back, so it might not cost you anything besides your time actually growing that. We need to figure out how much your dogs, for example, eat and put that back. Keep that on hand. And again, you want to use it on a first in, first out basis. If you have a metal can, 55-gallon drum full of dog food, and you have another one you're using from this one, then you empty this one and then just move this one you already had over and then fill this other one that you emptied back up. That way you keep a constant rotation going on to always have the freshest supply on hand at all times. But think about your pets. Think of what you'll need for your pets to feed those. Like your dogs, you might be able to go out and use that .308 rifle that you put back, or that shotgun with the slug, and go out and kill a deer. And you can eat a lot of that deer yourself, but you can also use a lot of that to feed your animals, feed your dogs. Just think of your situation, like I said before, your situation, where you are, what you will need, how many animals you have, and try to figure out how you'll feed those animals if there comes a time where you can't go out and just buy feed for those animals. And next on this list of prepping priorities is to become as self-reliant as possible on your own property. We talked about food storage a few minutes ago. You put back food storage, you can rotate that, but eventually if you can't go out and replace that, it's going to run out. And there needs to be a way for you to replenish that food supply. And the best way to do that is to become more self-reliant on your own property. You can raise a big garden, you can plant fruit trees, you can have, like we talked about a minute ago also, chickens, goats, rabbits and things like that. You can learn about edible plants in your location. You can learn about how to set traps, how to hunt. You can learn how to fish, how to make a fish trap to catch those fish while you're doing something else. You can have a trap set up to actually catch those fish, and you can, like I said, you'll be doing something else, and you go back and check that trap. You have a trap full of fish to eat. You can take make a wire cylinder and put a funnel in one end, and the funnel is bigger at this end. It gets smaller as it goes into your trap. Bait that trap, the fish will swim in and go in, but they can't find their way back out. Something like that works great to fish and to gather food while you're off, maybe tending your garden or actually hunting or doing something else. But figure out how you can become more self-reliant on your own property. Right now is a great time to actually be trying to till your backyard up, to till your side yard up, and actually working in compost and get ready to plant that garden this year. It's extremely important, and a lot of people overlook how important becoming self-reliant on their own property actually is. You have these people that their main preparedness plan is this little bug-out bag. They think they have everything they need to live for an extended period of time. It's a little bug-out bag. They're going to pack on that bag, and they're going to head to the forest, and they're going to live off the roots and the berries and the leaves and the dirt. Not practical, and if you have to stay for any length of time, most likely you're definitely not going to make it, especially in extreme weather conditions. It's a piss poor plan, and not one I recommend. You should have a bug-out bag to get you from this location to another predetermined location that you have ready to go already. Just planning on going out into the forest to bug out with your little bug out bag and think you're going to live off the land and live off the berries and the trees and the bark and things. Is it really a preparedness plan? And then you have the preppers who just want to stock up on things. They want to stock a pantry full of food and not do anything else. And while the pantry full of food is definitely recommended and it will give you a head start on everyone else because most people don't have anything, however, like I said, that food will eventually run completely dry. You need to be able to replace that. So think about how you can become more self-reliant on your own property. This is a very important prepping priority. However, it's one that's overlooked by a lot of preppers. And next on this list is community. If at all possible, you need to have a survival group. Not a militia group, not a paramilitary group, but a survival prepping group where you can help each other. You know, there's nothing wrong with militia group if you want to do that. However, be forewarned that these groups, if they have any number of members over 5 people that you grew up with, you should know that that group is most likely infiltrated by federal agencies, and they will be reporting back everything that you do. So keep that in mind if you join any type of these paramilitary type groups. But now I'm talking about, you know, a prepper type community, a group that is going to come together, to work together, to meet at this location. Should this chain of events happen, this group knows to meet at this location, and they're going to work together, bring all their supplies, and pull the resources together to survive and defend where they are. If you can't do that, then try to figure out where your neighbors stand. Are your neighbors preppers? Does your neighbors actually have any skills that, you know, like medical skills, dental, that can be used, that can be useful? Try to figure out your community. If you can, get a survival group going, because it's hard to do this alone. Sometimes we all need help, you know, but if nothing else, try to extend your family to include maybe your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, and things like that if you can. If they can get those people interested in prepping and you can get them actually doing something, that's great too, to form a group, because you have that family bond and those family ties, which will make that group stronger. And I think personally that the best group you can have is a large family group. Okay guys, next on this list is health. Take care of your health. I talked about this a little bit in the section on prescription medications. Get in the best shape that you possibly can, the best physical condition that you possibly can. You know, just about everyone can actually improve their health. You might not be able to improve your health to the point where you can run a marathon because of, you know, health conditions, age, bad knees, bad back, things like that, but just about everyone can actually do things to actually improve their health. And that should be the goal, is to improve your health as much as possible for you. You know, you can stretch, you can work on things to keep your balance. As you get older, balance is extremely important. You can stretch, you can walk. If you can walk and run, that is great also. You can backpack, hike, stay active, and be sure to put your health as a #1 priority in your preps, because if you aren't healthy, if you are sickly, it definitely decreases your chances of surviving a worst case type situation, really life in general. We're all going to pass away at some point, but the goal is to stay as healthy as possible for as long as possible. So figure out where you are health-wise right now and try to do everything you can to correct any health conditions you have and to improve your health. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a big old thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, and be sure to go right over here and check out this other video, and go right down here and see the address, mdcreekmore.com. Go to that website and download my free ebook. Thanks guys for watching. MD Creekmore, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully.